Scott Squirt and Emily the Embellisher bringing you yet another mediocre ski podcast, where we not only welcome you into our ski fam, but we bring the ski fam experience to you.
A fun, laid-back, and informational approach to the ski and snowboard community that you're going to love, whether you've skied once, twice, or are the best skier on the mountain. But don't get too excited, we're still better than you.
Whether you're on the early morning drive, carving up your favorite trail, or about to send it off a gnarly jump, listen in for some fast facts and a possible laugh. So friends, lower that chairlift bar, keep your tips up, and get ready for some ski speak. Did you fuck up this time?
2, 3, 4. That was the final countdown for this season. Woo woo.
Ski speak.
All right.
All right, welcome in Ski Fam. It is a big deal today. Your favorite mediocre podcast is coming at you with our 10th episode of Ski Speak.
Woo woo.
Double digits.
I am one of your hosts, Hot Brown Honey.
Yep, we're wrapping up the season. This is Big Air Archer. The last and final episode of season 1. I feel like we're like growing up. All grown up now.
It's like Rugrats.
Yeah.
Ski podcasting. This is your third co-host, Tardif, aka Tardigrade. One thing we'd really appreciate is feedback from our listeners. So as we're wrapping up, any input you'd want to give, specific things that you liked about what we did, anything you didn't like, what do you want from us for next season? Any of that sort of information would be really helpful. I received some feedback earlier in the year from my brother. I mentioned that in one of the episodes where he called my voice really shitty and he basically said I should just be a guest. Well, I got some other feedback from a friend, Greg, who said that he'll put our podcast on and he's not a skier, so he doesn't know what we're talking about, but he falls asleep to us. So
Ooh.
He really likes our soothing voices.
Or we're just really boring.
Yeah, probably more than that.
Take it however way you want, but just different feedback.
And we already have some on Apple Podcasts. We have 10 reviews. We have a 4.6 star rating. We have a lot of 5-star ratings and 1-star rating.
Ugh.
Midnight Bob, this fucking guy.
This guy.
Go fuck yourself, Midnight Bob.
Who the fuck are ya?
So Midnight Bob, who's some radio personality bullshit, has left us a 1-star review on Apple Podcast. If you can help us out, go leave 5-star reviews and also call Midnight Bob a fuck. That'd be great. Egg his house, maybe. Cut his brakes.
But that's not to say that if you give us feedback, we'll automatically hate you.
If it's bad, we will.
Yeah, only positive feedback is allowed.
And also not in public. Like, tell us offline, because this guy's just blasting us in front of everyone.
Yeah, we have a website.
Yeah.
Oh, and on that website is merch.
Also, fun fact, we have a new shirt available. It's a picture of Midnight Bob, and it says, go fuck yourself. So, you could buy that.
Love it. Next product, Midnight Bob toilet paper, so you can wipe your ass with it.
But seriously, we encourage constructive criticism.
Yes.
Yes. Actually, tell us what you think. We're really nice people. I promise. Maybe. But we're here to wrap up. We are here to reflect on our season. And I think one of the first things to do to give you full context on how valid all of our points are is talk about how many times we went skiing this year, because there's a big difference. I will start. I was really ambitious. I got out and I skied 2 times.
2?
Pretty impressive. 2. Like 2. Just 2.
Like you can count on one hand too?
Yes, it's the accurate amount of co-hosts we should have, but we let that snowboarding guy join us.
True.
So.
Oh, man.
Shots fired. Pew, pew, pew.
But you guys, my wonderful co-hosts, have skied significantly more.
Yeah, and if you want to put 2 into a real number, I went 32 times this year.
But why settle for 2 when you can settle for 5? And I went 35 times this year. What?
Pretty overrated, if you ask me. I think 2 was enough. It was great. Who needs more than that? No, I wish I had gone more. I think we told Ski Fam a couple episodes ago that you guys had this amazing trip out west, so you guys will certainly have had a better season than I did.
Yeah, it was a pretty unique season for us. We were able to travel out west, like Scott just said, and this is by far the most amount of times we'll be able to go out skiing in the near future. Yeah, so what were our favorite memories from this season? You know, we all went a different number of times, but let's wrap up this season from not only the podcast sense, but how did the actual ski season go?
Kick it off. What was your favorite part?
Oh, so one of my most memorable moments was definitely when we were out in Tahoe. And so in episode 6, we were talking about not looking at maps, and Scott made this joke, "Hey, I can't wait to hear that story when you go off a cliff at Tahoe." Well, lo and behold, when we were at Tahoe, I get to a point where I think there's a nice drop in, and we end up basically on the edge, and you can see just a steep drop off with trees. And it's a weird feeling because you really can't see the slope on the other side, but you're like, holy shit, that's actually a cliff. The ice is cracking beneath me, and I'm not able to like really turn. It's just like sliding underneath me, and I just get stuck. I had to basically scoot my butt down. There became a point where it was just like a straight drop of maybe like 2 feet.
Oh my God.
Insignificant. So the cliff that was like a 15, 20 foot drop is now to my right. And I had to just scoot my butt down this 2 foot drop. But from the pictures, it looks very insignificant. So
should have got Big Air.
Yeah, exactly. You could have stolen my name.
Yeah, there were a bunch of rocks, there's a bunch of ice, so I decided just to scoot my boot. And that time when Scott said, "Hey, I can't wait to hear about you going off a cliff," we almost went off a cliff because we weren't following the map, though. That was very memorable.
Yeah. So my favorite memory is one of 2 things, because I don't have favorites, but one of them was at Mount Snow. It was before we left for out west. And it was so freaking freezing that we would pop open a PBR. It would not only freeze on like the top of the can, but it also became slush by the end of the chairlift. So that was definitely by far like one of the most memorable. And despite the frigidity, it was amazing. It's such a fun day.
Chunky PBR. Good old PBR slushy.
Yeah, nothing like it. Bring slushy to a whole new level.
Yeah, that day was so cold. Your mask just froze to your face.
You guys dragged me out on the coldest freaking day. And you're right, the mask would just solidify and be like a hard shell on your mouth afterwards. It was kind of crazy. But my favorite memory of the ski season, again, you know, there's not many to choose from, but was the fact that I did get to go out with you guys. So, you know, you obviously are my favorite people to ski with.
Aww.
And Kate was there too. I don't want to leave her out. But I ended up getting very lost in the trees. Very lost in the trees because there was a lot of nice powder when we were out there.
Yeah.
And I was skiing on the edge of the boundary, but then I saw better snow and just kind of turned a little bit. I didn't think I was going off the mountain. My sense of direction is usually pretty good. Really great snow, tons of powder, loved it, but eventually there was very little ski tracks and I was just like, I should see where the hell I am. Luckily, my phone had some service that it showed me where I was on the map, and I was very off the mountain.
Oh my God. I didn't realize that's how you found it, because I remember like waiting and looking at my phone and being like, I wonder if he's texted. He's been gone for a really long time.
I did text, but I didn't have enough service to actually text, only enough to find me on the GPS. So I was following a different set of tracks, and then they disappeared, and I kept chasing the fresh snow. Yeah. But that person, too, must have come way off the mountain and somehow got themselves back on. But I could not. So I turned my phone completely to my right, and I was like, I need to head straight that way, because that's the only way back on the mountain. And I kid you not, it was like snow up to my waist. So trying to get across that, nearly fucking impossible to do. It was miserable. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, my skis are getting stuck. I'm dying. I'm sitting here saying,
the problem is that you're sitting there.
All right, eventually I get to a spot where I can ski again and like navigate my way back out. And then I remember popping out. You guys were like, yo, you were covered in snow. And I was, because I just kept falling into it. I was like covered in snow from head to toe. It was really ridiculous. But I said this then and I will stick to this now. That was some of the best powder that I have ever had and some of the best treeing in the skis that I have ever had. So I do not regret that at all. That's what it was. I was treeing in the skis because I wasn't skiing at a certain point.
Well, at least you had skis and not a snowboard, because I would have been royally fucked.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, my God. You totally would have been. Yeah. But, like, in addition to the amazing powder that day and the fact that it was record cold, we also had some really fun après afterwards. I just remember, like, dancing to The Weeknd and in our ski boots and just totally enjoying it.
I remember hanging out of my sunroof, taking videos of you guys just dancing around and having a great time. That was definitely a very fun après.
Yeah, that was so fun. Yeah, that was it. Oh, I guess one last thing. So also at Sun Valley, such a total surprise for an amazing day skiing. It was the first time probably our entire trip out west that we actually had powder. And it was Tardif, me, Wildcard Kate, and Red Dead Mike. And we went down the fire trail, and it's this trail that's just moguls all the way down, but then it's perfectly blended with the trees. So you could like pop into the trees if you wanted, or just stick to the moguls. And we were all like kind of drinking all day and just like blowing through. And it was just so damn fun. There was just enough powder. Mike wiped out, which rarely happens.
So we were taking videos of each other. Yeah. Every time we tried to take a video of us looking cool on this trail, we just ate shit. And that was like the only time we ate shit on that whole trail, was just when somebody else was taking a video.
Yeah. Oh, it was so fun.
Sounds
and then,
right.
oh my God. And then the end of it was when I was singing Sweet Buttercup.
Sweet Buttercup.
Anyway, so the three of them are ahead of me. I'm trying to keep up, getting onto the chairlift, feeling like Sid the Sloth, moving my hips back and forth to catch up with them. And then
Mike wasn't wearing a mask, so he got yelled at for not wearing a mask. And then I think Kate tries to jump the gun. I like was just there, slightly different time than the rest of us. And the lifty just says to us, "Well, that was a train wreck," as we get onto the lift. Which actually I recorded on GoPro. We got on the lift, and then I was like, guys, I think I have the GoPro on for that one.
Like the first time ever we get something good on it. Good time.
We can use that as our slogan for the podcast as well. That was a train wreck.
Ooh.
We definitely should. The worst part of all that, though, is that Scott wasn't there.
Aww.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. I am so much better than you guys, so I hope you got your moments of glory. No, but, you know, with all the good parts of the season, there are certainly bad parts. Mine was very obviously not being able to go as much as I would have liked to. 2 days is not nearly enough. We've been joking about it the whole time, but it really did suck, and so I really hope to have a much better ski season coming up this year.
Yeah, definitely.
But even the one day I went, one thing I did notice was that there was a lot longer of a wait to get on these damn chairlifts.
Oh my God.
That was definitely one of the worst parts of the season. At least Emily and I felt with the Epic Pass. So we were mostly going to Vail Mountains. We definitely had longer lift lines. And, you know, part of that can be attributed to COVID and they couldn't fill up chairlifts all the time. But there's definitely issues with lift lines this year. Like there were times when we were waiting 30, 45 minutes even.
Yeah, like on a Thursday at Heavenly, like on a random weekday.
That's ridiculous.
It was really a problem, especially when even like the most advanced terrain, the beginner terrain, it really didn't matter. There were just long lift lines. And so this year we're actually switching. We're getting rid of the Epic Pass. We've had the Epic Pass for a few years now, but part of the reason we're switching over to the Indy Pass is just that the lift lines were way too long at Vail Mountains. Interestingly enough, the Indy Pass actually has a question when you go to purchase it. Are you replacing Icon or Epic Pass with the Indy Pass? And I thought that was pretty interesting market research.
Yes. Yes, we
Yes.
are. And if there is a way that we could replace the weather with some snowier weather, that would be better too. Can we trade in this unsnowy season out west for a very snowy season?
Yeah, you guys picked an interesting season to go out west relative, because we got more snow on the East Coast than normal, but out there, whew.
Yeah. We just like kept missing it. It was awful. Like last year, Tahoe got dumped on, but I just feel like we have pretty bad luck. Like I feel like we always just miss the snow. Anyway, so that I would say is probably like the worst part of the season. And then also another thought, just with the season ending, we're pretty damn lucky that this season we can even know within some sort of anticipation that we were taking our last runs for the season or that we were going to the mountain for one of the last times. Because last year it was just cut so abruptly. So I'm pretty grateful for that.
Yeah, so last year we got cut short because of COVID. Mountains just closed. They didn't know what to do. Nobody really knew what was going on. That was when everything was shutting down. So we're just lucky that we had a season end this year. And one of my favorite jokes of the podcast throughout the recording was just kind of shitting on Ishkul. So we made fun of Ishkul for handling COVID so poorly. They were a pandemic hotspot all of last year. Well, I was joking that, hopefully they handled it better this year. Or like, you suck, Ishkul. Well, they didn't even open this year. So we were lucky that we had a full season. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ishkul. We'll pay you back next year.
But overall, COVID still had an impact on the season. There were some differences, and we thought it'd be a fun idea to go back and look at our predictions from our second episode and see how we did.
Take a stance on me, baby, that we'll see.
Our first musical number, right.
Yes. The first karaoke of the podcast. So I said, and I can still remember hearing my voice, it's going to be a loss. It's inevitable. But an increase in new types of ski bums, like long-term rentals, traveling for extended periods of time, that sort of thing.
I can also still hear your exact voice in the way you said it, because that was very accurate. That's exactly how you said it, yeah.
I know, we listened to that episode so many damn times. But what's so cool hearing me say that, we ended up being those people taking advantage of the more flexible work schedules. And I think that we proved that was something that a lot of people were able to do and take advantage of. We've learned since that there has been a huge economic loss.
I think the midweek flexibility was a big trend overall. A couple of the mountains that I saw, they reported an increase in the amount of skiers that they saw midweek because of that work from home flexibility. If you're privileged enough and lucky enough to have that situation, a lot of people did take advantage of that.
Yeah, definitely. Like we knew like a couple of people just in our own immediate circles that moved out west for the entire season or had a camper van and were skiing. So
Yeah. Oh, and probably a lot of it is because of those stupid weekend lift lines being so long.
Yeah, true.
They just wanted to go during the week if they had that privilege to go.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to how Emily said her predictions exactly. For me, I said some ski Miltons, some ski mountains will shut down for a couple of weeks, but probably in less restrictive areas. So like Vermont was being very restrictive, so I wasn't saying that they would shut down there.
I think you specifically said Terry Peak, South Dakota.
Ooh, yeah. That was
Terry
another
Peak.
favorite joke. Ishkul and Terry Peak. Well, I don't think they went out of business. I was partly right, where in Idaho, they actually had to shut down night skiing at Schweitzer Mountain for a weekend because nobody was following mask protocol. So pretty minimal impact, but the much bigger impact on the ski industry is Whistler Blackcomb. They had to shut down for quite a significant amount of time.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily their choice. British Columbia came out and said, hey, we're seeing an increase in cases. We are shutting everything down for 3 weeks. Whistler was specifically pointed out in that. Other ski mountains could stay open, and for Whistler Mountain, that took them right about to their predicted closing time. Blackcomb was expecting to stay open another couple weeks, but actually the next day after that announcement came out, they decided they were just going to scrap the entire rest of their season.
You know, it's a real bummer for the locals and the Whistler Blackcomb economy to have that.
On that same note, I think I was talking financially. I can't remember the exact way that I said it, so I'm not going to try. But I had predicted that the season would be worse unless vaccines or less cases had shown up in the next few weeks from that point. That obviously didn't happen in time for the ski season. And like I said, there was probably already enough of an impact to have changed the bottom line. And I also iterated there was probably a lot of potential for outbreaks and that some of the mountains could be COVID hotspots. I don't know that many of the mountains really became COVID hotspots. One of the things that I did see was that a lot of the cases at these mountains came from staff at the mountains rather than skiers or travelers. That's probably more a result of testing them often and actually being able to identify cases that came from them versus someone who just drove there, skied, and then left, right? One of the interesting things, too, on the point of the vaccine is that it has actually gotten a lot better now. And one cool thing that I just saw the other day, I believe it was this past Sunday, at A Basin, they were actually doing a vaccine clinic on the slopes.
Ooh.
Oh, cool.
I didn't see anybody on their skis getting a shot in their arm. That would have been really cool, like ski right through. But they were providing vaccines, which is really, really awesome.
Could you imagine like a ski drive-through?
So
please ski up to the next window.
you get your vaccine shot in one arm, and then in your other arm, they give you a regular shot to sip.
Yeah. Okay. Guys, we're going to have this at Ski Speak Slope.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
In the article I read, someone had said they went there just for that reason. They like switched their mountain plans to go there just to get a vaccine. And then on to your point, Tardif, he said he was planning to get really drunk afterwards. So don't know if that's recommended by the CDC, but hey, if you're having a good time, get a vaccine, get a day in of spring skiing, and have a couple of drinks. What more can you want?
Yeah, seriously. And then if you have any of those, like, what is it?
Are you trying to think of symptoms?
Symptoms, yeah. And then if you had any symptoms, you'd be able to camouflage it with the hangover. So you really wouldn't know what was going on. So you could just call a sick day and you'd actually be just hungover. So
yeah, I imagine your body would not like you if you put
Probably
it through that and drank a bunch of alcohol with it. So
yeah, no. I can't
Only
imagine
one way
either.
to find out, and that's if the three of us actually ever get vaccinated, because we don't believe in vaccines here. Just kidding.
well, we're going to cut that out. I don't even want to pretend be associated with that.
Cut, snip, 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 snip.
Get your fucking vaccines, you idiots. Okay, I'm good now.
I agree with that.
Oy. Anyway. So in our experience, kind of like to wrap up our predictions, there definitely were capacity limits. We had, as we probably explained throughout the season, some trouble actually making reservations on the weekends, but overall it was pretty accessible. And then there was, of course, social distancing throughout all of the lines. They definitely had signs throughout, like mask up. There were people a lot of the time, people or lifties like walking around asking people to keep their masks up. And then inside, there weren't really many people at all. Yes, you were able to make reservations, but every time I went into peak, nobody inside. So we can only begin to predict what type of financial repercussions that will be. But I think overall, like what we would be curious about is what you all think. You know, we had our perspectives, of course, but please let us know on social media. Like, was there anything that stuck out to you most from this season that you noticed and that you think will stick or that you liked, didn't like? Let us know. And so you know our handles by now, Ski Speak Pod on all of your social media channels.
Ooh, well done. And yeah, we're not just looking for feedback on our podcast. We're looking for your feedback on your experiences this season. So let us know. We thought that there were a lot of good things to come out of the season. As we were saying before, at Mount Snow, we had a lot of fun dancing in the parking lot afterwards. And it just seemed a little bit more tolerable to have people tailgate and have a little bit more fun because you couldn't really go into restaurants as easy. So that's something we hope sticks around. We also saw this year that local skiing was way up. So a lot of travel restrictions prevented people from crossing state borders or that sort of thing, especially in the Northeast. But one thing that I mentioned, and patent's still pending, but the exceptional patronage phenomena.
I love this.
Where the locals or the regulars are going to spend more or do more to help their businesses survive because other people can't necessarily access those spots. So we did see that this year, and hopefully people just stick up for the ski industry next year.
Yeah, if you care about something enough, you're going to support it. I think a lot of people did it for their ski mounts. I wasn't the best at doing it for my ski mounts, but I had bought a pass way earlier, so totally works out. It's all the same. It was definitely a big thing where people were supporting, and hopefully they will continue to support the ski industry going forward as well.
Yeah, and definitely a trend this year was just more people in general were getting outside, and that translated to the winter sport industry.
Yeah, definitely. General visitors and numbers for out west, they haven't been able to release them yet, probably because their seasons are wrapping up around now. But for New York and New Hampshire, these states actually probably benefited because Vermont was more restrictive just in general. And kind of to that exceptional patronage phenomena, you definitely felt that in Vermont because the way Vermont handled their restrictions was providing some very heavy guidelines for out-of-staters coming in. And so the people that were going to the mountains were more locals. There weren't any fines or anything that Vermont had, but they still had those restrictions. So I think that did make people shy away from traveling from Vermont and filter into New Hampshire and New York, the bordering states. While that kind of helped New Hampshire, they had pretty much the same attendance. The rental shops had record years because of exactly what you were saying, Tardif, from earlier. It's just like people were interested in trying out new aspects of the sport and everything. The last part was the satellite industry. So not just the mountains, but also the restaurants and the hotels. Like they all took a hit because people weren't traveling to the state or wanting to stay over because it was so complicated.
Yeah, and to add to that point, Emily, you said a lot of things, and I want to put some numbers to them. Molly Mahar, the president of Ski Vermont, even came out very openly, said there are some fairly steep declines from Vermont ski resorts. Mm-hmm. Daily lift tickets were down nearly 40% despite season passes being up. You mentioned the restaurants took a hit. Food and beverage plunged 70% within the ski resorts in the state, probably due to some of those seating restrictions and just overall the three biggest holiday periods during the ski season. So Christmas/New Year's, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and President's Day. Those numbers were off by 30 to 35% in terms of overall business. That's a big deal. That's a third less business.
Yeah, tough year. And it's scary, like, because I've read these numbers and I've seen them, and just hearing them right now from you, it's just, they're staggering.
Well, here's a scary number for you.
Vermont perfect. I need more. Just what I want.
Vermont ski resorts lost an estimated $100 million during the pandemic winter. And so that's just the ski resorts. Well, there's all these associated industries, right? The hotel, the foods that we've just talked about. So they're estimating about a $700 million impact to the overall economy in Vermont. And Vermont's not a very big state, so this is a pretty huge impact to them. And actually, we're not really going to dive into it too much, but we mentioned before issues with like within Europe. Well, they closed down, some countries closed down for all of those holidays that Scott mentioned, Christmas, New Year's time period, which is their biggest revenue generating period. Whereas like a Switzerland, which is not part of the EU, they stayed open even though they were only a few miles away from the France mountains that had to close. So just really interesting financial impacts across the country, across the world.
Yeah, and it's just ridiculous numbers that, kind of like you were saying, Emily, I don't even know that we can really fathom, right? $700 million. So I'm a little scared, too, to see how this really plays out going forward and what we'll have to see in terms of fallout from it all.
Yeah, so it seems like maybe all the ski resorts are going to stay open. They're not going to close. But what about those mom and pop shops in the ski towns? So that's something a little bit scary.
It's only the tip of the iceberg. Probably just one minor example of the general economy and how COVID has affected everything.
Yeah.
Sad music playing. Well, here's some other news that on paper it seems good, but it's kind of shitty at the same time. When looking at ticket sales and pass sales, Vail already reduced their Epic Pass price by 20% for the upcoming season, which you see that and you're like, wow, that's really affordable. But
What? Like, WTF? Your lift lines were already out of control this year. Now you're just going to see a 20% decrease in prices to see a 40% increase in wait times. I mean, it's good for like making it more affordable. It's just at the same time, I hope that Vail is thinking about the infrastructure and how they're going to be able to handle that influx of people attending, because they had that increase of passes this year. I'd love to see how they're going to accommodate an increase this year.
I don't think they care, though. By the time you get into a lift line, they have your money. They're happy. They're counting their dollars. They're really banking on the fact that they'll make more money even with a lower price.
Yeah. Or, no offense, Scott, but maybe that they're like banking on if they decrease the price, they'll get more people that buy it up front and then not go. Like kind of like what happened last season for you. Like you bought the pass up front because it was more affordable. We got the 20% discount. But then like at the end of the day, it like wasn't feasible to get to the mountains.
Two things here. It's kind of like buying a gym membership. They're going to lose money off some people. They're going to make money off some people.
Yeah, true.
And then another really interesting concept is over the last like 40, 50 years or so, the ski tourism, ski resort industry hasn't really grown in popularity. So it's pretty unique in that sense. Like the number of people going skiing each year hasn't really changed that much, even though we've had significant population increase. But one thing I think we can maybe explore is the fact that there are slightly more skiers going now, or they're trying to make it more accessible, but also we can't actually have more ski mountains. So it's not like you can expand the sport in that sense.
True. To keep up with the demand.
Yeah, you can't really keep up with the demand. So it's a really fine balance, but that's for the future.
For when we get that mountain making technology.
Yeah. For when we can stop global warming.
I just thought of a great startup idea. Let's just make more mountains for these ski industries. Can you imagine how much money Vail would give us if we said we can make you 10 more mountains?
All of them bigger than Vail and Whistler. Speaking of Vail, overall their lift revenue decreased about $50 million this year, but they sold more passes. But they had an 8% decrease in visitors throughout the season. So more people were visiting Vail resorts with season passes than day tickets this year, which makes sense. Less people were doing just the day trips. They were looking for the affordable season pass. And then flipping it over to the Indy Pass, they had a record year for visitations. It's about 60 mountains collectively that are independent owners. Their sales increased last year about 800% from the previous year. That was especially beneficial in states that had more restrictions or more of like the local mountains, or states where people weren't flying as much. So Colorado, they have a lot of Vail or Icon mountains versus New York or New Hampshire or even Vermont, where they have a lot of mountains, but it's more of like a local population contributing there. So those mountains really benefited from people buying the Indy Pass this year. And actually, they benefited so much that this upcoming year, prices went up about $80, and they're going to have blackout dates. And the reason that they're increasing prices and blackout dates is to reduce lines at mountains. So they actually want to keep that local mountain feel. They don't want it to be like a Vail mountain.
Now that's a pass who actually cares. So we have talked a lot about the economic impact. I want to go back to something, Tardif, that you said earlier, and actually I think something that you said earlier, Emily, as well. Some of these mom and pop shops, they may struggle, they may have a difficult time staying open next year based on the economic fallout from COVID, but something interesting is that ski shops, from what I've seen, actually saw a lot more traffic than usual. Henderson's in Vermont, actually the ski shop that I used to go to, that's where I got my skis tuned, I got new gear and everything. It's a really wonderful shop. If you're ever around, stop in, say hi, everyone's super nice. But they said this is the best season they've had in 37 years. They actually saw an increase in leasing this year relative to the past couple years. So I think it shows that there was a lot of interest in getting outside and getting on the mountain, like you've said before. But it also highlights something else. From what they said, there was a strong demand for climbing skins and new skis for backcountry skiing as well, something that we haven't really talked much about.
Yeah, and that has definitely increased the number of people that are interested in learning backcountry and escaping the lift lines that we've been talking about and embracing kind of a new form of skiing. And with that sense of adventure and trying new things, you have experienced people going out into the backcountry, but then that also can sometimes have deadly effects. This year we actually saw, as of, I guess, the end of March. But in 2021, it's tied for the deadliest year in people dying in avalanches with 36 deaths. So avalanche.org is actually a really cool website. I highly recommend checking it out. Basically, they record and keep track of everything you can about an avalanche, like what the weather was like, what the conditions were, who the people were, just all of that. And then they also have like a really cool map that says the levels in which you should be paying attention to and what the likelihood of an avalanche actually happening is.
All of this is for the US specifically. So 36 deaths this year in the US for avalanches. And they're looking at all winter snow sports specifically. So skiing, snowboarding, snowmobiling, and then the hiker, climber, snowshoer kind of activities. And specifically, 22 skiers and snowboarders doing backcountry riding and skiing died, which is the most compared to any other year since 2009 when they began record keeping.
Yeah, and then this February they had 26 deaths, which is incredible. Like,
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, that's almost one per day. And granted, it wasn't one person dying per day. There were incidents of like 8 people on a Saturday or something like that. But it averages out to about 1 per day in February.
yeah. And this year I found to be particularly interesting because nearly half of all of the avalanche deaths this season occurred during the week of January 30th and February 6th. So that made it the most deadliest 7-day period since 1910, when 96 people were killed in a massive avalanche in Washington state.
That is a lot of people.
I know, right?
You know who didn't die in that avalanche? Snowboarders.
That might be because they didn't yet exist in 1910.
Well, they're still better than skiers.
Still, I mean, you're not wrong, but it's just like kind of one of those fake news kind of things.
It's all the way you
Little
spin the
misleading.
facts.
But in talking about all of these deaths that we've mentioned, which are all horrible, it could be connected in a couple ways, right? There's been more backcountry skiing this year because people wanted to try it out, didn't want to wait in the lift lines, etc. But I don't think that is necessarily a big contributing factor to these deaths. One of the major things that is overarching all of this is really the weather.
Yeah, and this season we had pretty interesting weather overall. So I think we should take a little bit of a dive into what the season looked like from a weather perspective.
Would one say a swan dive into the weather?
No one would not.
Because I'm pretty sure you said in a previous episode, let's just take a big old swan dive into something else.
In our economy episode,
Yeah.
I think. Okay, I take back my laughter.
Yeah, I was trying to make an inside joke.
That's fair.
Yeah, so one of the things that I was really interested in, because we had such crappy weather out west, and then when we were out west, we saw all of these like record snows happening in the Northeast, like getting 6 feet of snow at one point or something ridiculous. So I did a little bit of research, and all of the mountains that we went to had about half the amount of snow than they normally do on average.
Yeah, so people were making jokes about Emily and I, saying that we were like cursed and anti-snow gods or whatever. And what did well as far as snow and ski resorts? The Pacific Northwest, which is one of the few areas that we didn't touch on our 2-month road trip. So
yeah, so the snow gods did not come in this year for us. But like, for example, the Tahoe Mountains received like half their average. We went to Solitude and they had this season like 278 inches when their average is 500. So they were like teetering just above half. And then Alta, which is pretty much immediately next door to Solitude had 390. They had like 100 inches more when they are an average 547. So it's just like staggering difference there. And they're just so close together. I have no idea how or why that happens. Go figure.
Yeah, that's really weird. That's really weird. But to your point about being anti-snow gods or whatever, you guys left the Northeast. We got plenty of snow. It didn't really benefit me at all except for shoveling it, but we got plenty of snow.
It's punishment for not skiing.
Right. Yeah, it really just made it even worse. I was looking at some of the numbers of Mountain Creek here in New Jersey, and it's really interesting because this year we got 50 inches of snow, or Mountain Creek, like I went anywhere. Mountain Creek got 50 inches of snow. Their average from the last 10 years is about 41 inches, so they did a little bit better than average. But last year, they had 8 inches of snow, and the year before that, they only had 15. So when I tell you, like, I remember last year there was no snow here, and this was a much better winter here, it's very true, given those numbers. So thank you both for leaving.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But I also want to point out, like, 50 inches versus 200, 300, 500 average inches for some places out west. That's absolutely crazy. It's just such a big difference of quality snow and the amount you'll get. A variation of less than 10 inches for Mountain Creek can have a much bigger impact than 10 inches when you're talking about 500.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, New England gets quite a bit more snow than New Jersey. But this year they had some really interesting delays to start the season because they didn't have enough snow. It wasn't financially viable, especially with COVID, to even open. They really didn't have anything going until like January. And then it just kicked off into a ton of snow in February, which is exactly when Emily and I left.
Wah, wah, wah.
I blame Emily, but who knows? We'll never know.
I know.
And just to give some context that all of the Northeast doesn't suck nearly as much as New Jersey does, Killington usually averages about 200 inches of snow. So it's a much more significant amount, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Just this season, or weather in general, the patterns of snow are incredibly inconsistent, very localized. As a hydrologist, I can actually say that the snow... As a hydrologist, I am not qualified.
What? You can't say anything as a hydrologist, apparently.
Because I'm like, well, should it actually be a meteorologist? Should it be a meteorologist saying this? Or do I have any qualification?
I mean, you studied water, and snow is just the cold form of water, so sure.
Yeah, I'm not a glaciologist. I'm not a meteorologist, but I can say that determining snowpack and just snow processes and the whole water cycle during the winter, it's very difficult to calculate. So all of it is just inconsistent.
Yep.
Especially with the added climate change that we are seeing.
Yeah. And that makes it hard to make like any predictions, much like it was this year for us to figure out how we thought this next season would be. I mean, it's all weather dependent. As we said at the beginning of this season, as we'll say at the beginning of next season, you never know what the season's going to bring. So we just have to keep optimistic and, embrace what the conditions we have, and hope that with the economic conditions that we have as well, that the local skiers continue to give back to their communities, that these new skiers continue to help keep the ski industry going. And those lap skiers, those that haven't skied for a number of years and have decided to come back, keeping them on the mountain to help this industry continue to grow and to be sustained.
Yeah, and a lot of other unique advancements kind of came out of this COVID situation. There were some changes to ordering food at some of the lodges, right? They had order ahead through an app or something like that. Same thing with rental equipment. They had apps for parking that you would use to reserve your parking and everything. So some of that, I think, will be here to stay. At least I hope it is, right? It overall improves the guest experience, not the guest's appearance, as I wrote in the show. You look so much better with a parking app on your phone.
I was wondering what that was.
But guests look so much better while they're there.
But overall, they seem to have improved the guest experience. It was a forced trial run this year, and I think overall mountains will see the value and keep them around.
So something else that we had talked about before in a previous COVID episode was that mountains weren't going to be spending money on kind of the cushier upgrades this last year because of COVID, and knowing that they were going to be losing money. They were trying to push those off. Well, Vail's already planning on getting back to replacing lifts. So Okemo and Keystone, for example, are going through lift upgrades. On the Icon Pass side of things, Steamboat, they're rearranging their whole lift strategy to try to have traffic flow better. And all of those upgrades are planned for this year. So you'll see that implemented. A lot of the Indy Pass mountains, they had a lot of success this year. And so that revenue that was generated there, you're going to see a lot of improvements at those mountains to increase the guest experience there. And you'll see those order ahead food and beverage and rental equipment things that they never had before. You'll see those kinds of things stay.
I think about Tardif's and my last day at Mount Snow, and we just grabbed a beer and started drinking by like where the ski racks were and just hanging out, chilling at some picnic tables. And I think that was something that was just a little bit more relaxed and acceptable. It was just like taking a beer can to go and standing outside if you needed to, that sort of thing.
So in conclusion, everyone should have a better experience next year, or else.
Or else.
Or
Or
else.
else. Or else.
Or else.
Or else.
Or else.
Or else.
Or else.
Whoa. Easy there.
Throwback to Valentine's Day episode.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening. That's all we got.
Bye.
No.
Well, that is a wrap, Ski Fam. We are happy you stuck with us. We've put small themes within different episodes. We just figured out sound effects in our last episode. In case you didn't notice.
I hope you liked it as much as we did.
But we're excited to look back and see how much you loved us. And on that note, please tell us your feedback. Like we said before, we want to hear from you. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Was it a dumpster fire? We want to hear it all. Just don't be Midnight Bob.
Yeah. Like, what episodes did you like? I'm really just curious. Like, what striked your fancy? Purr.
Did you have a favorite featured animal? Barry.
That's everybody's favorite mascot.
Yes.
So we're going to be doing a number of things during the summer. We're going to try to keep our presence up. You'll hear from us, whether it's through a mid-summer released episode talking about our experience. We'll be maybe trying to do some stuff on YouTube. We'll be preparing for season 2, which is really why we want your feedback. And, you know, everyone should have a better experience with season 2 or else.
Or else.
Or else.
It's because we're hilarious, and this has been a crazy 10 episodes. We're so lucky we haven't had to edit anything. Like, what other podcast do you know that can do a full 10 episodes with no edit? Thanks for listening to Ski Speak. Join us next time as we continue the stories, facts, laughs, and of course the embellishment. See you on the mountain, Ski Fam.
We have so much to celebrate.
We turned double digits today.
Whoa. What an accomplishment.
I know.
Yay.
Let's just fucking do a shot.
A whole 10 episodes.
We're 10 episodes in. whatever
Into
you're
this
doing.
train wreck.
I don't care what you're doing right now. If you're on the way to work, if you're
Pull over.
cleaning up, if you're, pull over, do a shot with us, Ski Fam. This is for you. Enjoy the train wreck that is no longer snowboard speak.
When is that joke ever gonna die? With our futures in this next shot.
Scott, you got to get into this with us.
You took this in a very different direction than I thought it was going to go. Because I was imagining more like, Ski Fam, it's been 10 episodes. Like, thanks so much for staying with us. Blah, blah, blah. If you made it to this, like, kind of thing.
Okay.
But you're
then
just
kick
like,
it off.
celebrate party. And that's fine. We can do that. I just was like,
Okay,
Kick it off.
You start it off, and then we'll bring the party.
all right. All right, Ski Fam. Thanks for sticking with us through all 10 of our episodes. We are really happy that you've been here with us. If you have stuck it out after the end credits for each episode, you've heard our bloopers, but we wanted to take this time to celebrate with you and have a little party.
Woo! Party! Let's bring the party, Emily.
I know. We're double digits now.
Yes, because they can see you dancing.
A little striptease going on. All right. Are we ready?
Whatever you're doing, Ski Fam, we want to take a shot. We want to celebrate with you that we made it this far and that you're still listening to us. I can't believe it. But
Mostly to you for sticking with us this long.
Is that not what I just said?
Oh, but I think she meant to you? Like to you, Scott? Or to, wait.
Oh, to you,
Never
Ski
mind.
Fam. Oh, I'm totally misheard you then. I'm sorry.
Train wreck, train wreck, train wreck.
I don't care what you're... I've tried saying this like 4 times. I don't care what you're doing, Ski Fam. If you're driving to work, pull over. If you're cleaning, if you're hiking, if you're biking, if you're Sean Schmiting, if you're drinking a beer, do a shot with us.
And especially if you have Barry the Bathroom Badger.
Aw, Barry.
To Barry. Okay, we're doing the shot now. Pinky's
Okay, yeah,
out,
we should
guys.
probably do the shot.
Pinky's out.
Cheers.
Fun fact, that was the train wreck to start our episode.
Yeah, we're not even drunk. This is just us. Normally.
All right,
Good luck
now
with the
let's-
episode.
And let's awkwardly fade out.
And good night, Greg.
Good night, Greg.
Sleep well.
Sweet dreams.
Okay, I'm stopping. 3, 2, 1.
Thanks for listening.